Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes. I hope that everyone can see and hear me okay. I want to welcome all of you to episode 7 of Unscripted. And the title for tonight's show is What's So Civil About a War Anyway? And, there's only one way really to answer that. It isn't. I want to say hello to Aged Boomer and D. Pensac. I want to thank you both for being here. You could have been anywhere else, but you came here. All righty. Want to tell everybody a little bit about what the show is going to be about tonight. I'm going to be I'm going to give my thoughts on doxing and YouTube feuds. I am going to have a new episode of What's on My Shelf. And at some point, I'm going to have to get up and show you what's on my shelf because I didn't bring it over here with me. And also, I'm going to be taking some viewer questions from the chat and some that I've received in the comments section over the last couple of weeks that I haven't had a chance to answer yet. So I'm going to be doing that live as well. I hope that everyone is doing well out there tonight. I started a new job this week, as some of you may know. It's right now going to be Tuesdays through Saturdays in the afternoon and early evening. So you're probably not going to be seeing as much of me in the daytime as you have previously. But hey, we're going to be here. Unscripted is going to continue. Thank you, Dave. And so, yeah. Thank you, Troy. Congratulations again on a new job. Thank you. I tell you, I am really happy to have a job where I don't come home angry or depressed, or leave for work already worrying what's going to go wrong. Yes, we do have both of the Geeky Geezers here. And I want to remind everyone, after this show is over, please follow me over to Geeky Geezers, hosted by Aged Boomer and Troy Pacelli. That's going to be starting here in just under an hour, right after the show finishes up. Okay. We have JPRPH1 in the chat saying hello to everyone. Good evening, sir. Or ma'am, as the case may be, because I don't know. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get down to it now that we have the intros out of the way. Yeah, Troy has the Geeky Geezers link up in the chat. Always a very interesting and fun show, and Geeky Geezers has become appointment television for me, or I should say appointment YouTube, I guess, because are we television? We're better than television now. I mean, I think so anyway. I think YouTube is better than television. JPRPH1 equals John. Okay. I will not misgender you again, sir. All right. Netters Network. Hello. We're broadcasters. Good enough for me. Broadcasters. Aged Boomer has said so. So it is written, so it shall be done. Okay. Now, you all know that while I am on my show, I try to avoid anything that could be deemed political or anything that would come off as me trying to take sides against one person or another. Now, last week, I named names, as it were, because I felt and still feel, of course, that there is a cancer inside of a corporation, in this case, Disney, and that there were people within that organization, current and recent past, that I feel have made racist and or anti-American statements. And I named a couple of people in that episode, and that's not something I normally want to do, but I wanted to shed a light on people who are trying to divide the fan base. Now, this week is a different story. This week, I'm not going to name names. You may already know who I mean. Now, my show is not set up to go after other YouTubers. Quite the opposite. We need to stay together. And there were a couple of YouTubers who got into a spat this week. And you may not name names, but how about drawing pictures? Well, I'm going to be drawing a picture, or at least I'm going to attempt to. Now, there was a strength and unity, exactly. Now, there was a YouTuber who called another YouTuber a coward because that person chooses to remain anonymous in their videos. Now, my thought on whether or not someone chooses to remain anonymous over being upfront, as I am, I think that's absolutely fine. If you want to take on a persona while you're on the air, that's absolutely fine. I get a kick out of that, actually. I think it's a lot of fun. The only reason I never bothered with that is because I pretty much blew my face reveal the first time I actually sent in a super chat, because my original icon before I settled on the one that I have now was this basically a black and white picture of myself, which I'm sure anybody who's followed me, I'm sure is familiar with what picture, that is, because it's been used on thumbnails. Yeah, you're referring to face reveals. Yeah. In part, I'm talking about face reveals, yeah. But whenever I'm also talking about on-screen personas. Now, like I say, personally, whenever someone affects an on-screen persona, I'm totally fine with that. I get a kick out of that. I think it's fun. There are some people who also do it to protect certain sources, because if they put their true identity out there, they may expose people that they get information from. Now, there is a YouTuber who's very prominent and has more subs than I could ever dream of having. Who does this? Who affects a persona and reports on certain subjects? And this person has sources that they are trying to protect. Now, when another YouTuber comes along and calls that person and other people who do what this person does cowards for not showing their face, we can't do that. As Troy says in the chat, strength and unity. Now is the time where YouTubers need to be unified. We don't always have to agree with each other. We don't have to have the same politics, but there is a certain, there's manners. Okay. We have to at least respect one another, because then we will be divided and there will be the civil war within our ranks that I am referring to in my title. And I'm very worried that if things take a turn for the better and we finally get the entertainment back that we deserve, if there are certain people, okay, I'm going to say it, Kathleen Kennedy and people of her ilk, who get removed, and say that a David Zaslav type comes to Disney and turns things around, and we win, like my like my my outro always says, stay strong because this is how we win. There's a reason why I say that, you know, because I am worried that if we get that victory, that there will be certain members of the YouTube community that will start cannibalizing one another. And, you know, I saw something happen this week that made me very much worry about that. You know, when you have people who are elder statesmen, as it were, in our ranks, go after one another, and both sides said things online that were not correct. All right. I am trying to stay neutral in this argument. That's what I think that both of the people that I'm referring to should do. They should go to their own separate corners and agree to disagree. But if they're not, then they got to have some kind of a sit down and hash this out, because you're going to hurt the community in the long run. Because if the people who are the enemies of our community, and we have enemies, we do, the She-Hulk series proved that. We are living rent free in their heads. But if we're going to have people within our own ranks start to be divided, we will not. It's this divide and conquer, and I'm very worried that could happen. And understand, I have nothing against either of the individuals that I'm referring to. Okay. I just disagree with, one side over the other on this particular point. And when one of those people also tries to drag other people who are choosing to remain anonymous or who affect a persona and try and drag them into the argument, that's not good either. And it worries me. It really does. And I fear for the future, enough as it is. I came to YouTube because it's the one place where I feel like I can be myself. And people disagree with me too. There's someone who I have been on a number of live streams with who disagrees with me every time I put something out on Twitter. And that's perfectly fine. He certainly has that right. But I'm really worried that, once we achieve this victory that we have all been looking for, And we are so close to it right now. We're probably closer than we think. We cannot be divided. It's bad enough that the country is divided right now, and it is. I have never seen it this bad. Never. And I've been around a day or two. Now, this might be a video where I lose subs on. And if I do, I'm sorry, but if you feel you have to go, then you have to go. You know, Troy is saying it hasn't been this bad since the war between the states. Yeah. Jedi Bill and I, during his Western Cinema Sunday, we watched a movie called The Shadow Riders that takes place just after the end of the Civil War. And part of the plot of that film, it's not the main plot, but part of the plot of the film is kind of the strife that took place afterward, where the war may have been over, but you still very much had a divided country. And we have that divided country again right now. We might not be in a physical war, but we are definitely in a cultural war. And I'm worried that that war will bleed into our community. So, going on and saying that people are cowards because they don't show their face, you have to think of the fact that there might be a reason. We have had people in our community who have been physically threatened. There are people in our community who have received death threats. There are people in our community who have been swatted on multiple occasions. Luckily, none of that has happened to me yet. But I understand that by putting myself out as I do, that could be a possibility. And that's part of it. We have to protect ourselves to a certain extent, you know, or there are those of us in this community who have sources that they need to protect, who have family that they need to protect. That's not cowardice. That's just being careful. Troy saying, really historically, many of the problems we have today are because of issues poorly handled or never truly handled during the Reconstruction. Absolutely. Says, there are people in our community who actually have to be able to earn a living. History demonstrates that it's not possible in times like this if one speaks out. Exactly. I've lost multiple jobs because I voted a certain way, or because of, I wouldn't take a certain something. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, I understand. Says, I am a huge fan of both of the folks I think you're talking about. I am and remain channel members of both of them. Obviously, I disagree with the one of them, but I'm a big supporter of both. Exactly. So am I. I am not here to denigrate either of the people that I am speaking of tonight, because I have respect for both of those people. But they are, to a certain extent, both wrong on this. And like I said, they need to go to neutral corners, calm down, and then at some point come back and settle this. Come on, do it, like have a, do a live stream, have a debate if need be, and settle it. because I do subscribe to both of the people that I'm talking about, and will continue to do so. This isn't going to be enough for me to unsubscribe. It takes a lot for me to unsubscribe from someone. I have only unsubscribed ever from two YouTubers. Ever. Two. I stuck by everybody else. And the reason why I dropped those two people is because they either went after their fans or they went after other YouTubers and their families. And that's the only reason that I've ever dropped someone. And I blocked one channel from having access to mine. Again, because they put another YouTuber in danger or in potential danger. And I wasn't going to have it. You're not going to do that. Not on my channel. You're not. But that's really it. We must stand together. Together we stand, divided we fall. We cannot remain divided. We can't start driving wedges into relationships. We have to stand together, and we have to stand tall. And that's really what I wanted to say tonight. If you have a disagreement, you don't air it out on Twitter. Settle it behind the scenes, or have a live stream and have a debate. And that's my point. But yeah, as JPRPH1 says, this is not enough for me to unsubscribe from anyone. And I'm not telling anybody to do so. In fact, I'm saying quite the opposite. Continue to support these people, but you can disagree with them. It is okay to disagree. We all say that, agree to disagree, but we have to prove that within our own community as well. So, okay, enough of the rant for this week. All right, I am going to move on to the part everyone wants to see, which is the physical media portion of the show. And like I said, I sat down and didn't have the physical media in front of me, so I'm going to have to pick up the computer and once again move freely about the cabin. All right. Oh, yes. We are professional and nothing ever goes wrong. Because I assure you that this entire show was planned from minute one. All righty. Let's see. Have a treat for you. Unboxing night. Now, I made a couple of purchases over the last week or so. Okay. And I know that a few of you are going to be very familiar with the first movie that I'm going to bring up. And this is the 4K Blu-ray Collector's Edition of Walter Hill Streets of Fire. Now, those of you who are a fan of Troy and Netta's channel, and Troy and Netta are both with us tonight, and also Aged Boomer and Big Al Presents, They had a retro cinema episode about Streets of Fire very recently. And I hung on to my DVD from back in the day, so that's what I was watching the other night. But now I actually have the 4K in my hands. I hope everyone can see that. And that's the back. Spine. Here's the 4K that has the woman from Flashdance on it. There are 3 discs altogether in this set. The 4K, the Blu-ray with Diane Lane on it, and the special features disc, Michael Pare and Diane Lane again. Just watched that film due to someone having a watch party with it. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And I was in the chat for that as well. And let's see. New 2023 4K scale. Now scan. I'm going to say scale. Blooper reel. Okay. 4K scan of the original camera negative. New Dolby Atmos track, which ought to sound fantastic. Shotgun and 6 Strings, the making of a rock and roll fable, featuring interviews with director co-writer Walter Hill, actors Michael Pare and Deborah Van Valkenburg, screenwriter Larry Gross, producer Lawrence Gordon, and many more. Rumble on the Lot, Walter Hill's Streets of Fire Revisited. Vintage featurettes, rock and roll fable, exaggerated realism, choreographing the crowd, creating the costumes and from the ground up. Music videos, theatrical trailer, online promos, and a still gallery. So it's a pretty full set. And if you have not yet seen Streets of Fire, I highly, highly recommend this movie. It's a lot of fun. Ex-army soldier turned mercenary, comes back to his hometown when his rock star ex-girlfriend gets kidnapped by a biker gang, and he's got to go and save her. It's a pretty cool movie. It's got a little bit of the 50s, a little bit of the 80s, a little bit of the 60s, and you don't quite know exactly when in time it takes place. You know, it's called a rock and roll fable, and it absolutely is. It's a lot of fun. It's a little over an hour and a half, so it doesn't outstay its welcome. And I highly recommend it. This is my recommended movie of the week, Streets of Fire. All right, I also have another disc here, and for the first time, Netflix has released one of their movies on video, and this is All Quiet on the Western Front. This is the new one that was nominated for 9 Academy Awards and won 4 of them. Adapted and directed by Edward Berger. And I've yet to see the movie. I am buying this sight unseen. I'm a big fan of the book, as you know, and of the other 2 screen adaptations, and I've heard a lot of good things about this one. So All right, you have the front cover, the back, and the extras on this disc are an audio commentary from the co-screenwriter and director Edward Berger. There's the making of documentary and two theatrical trailers. See the spine, and we have a single disc inside. So that's the video haul for the week. Is Streets of Fire and All Quiet on the Western Front. One I'm looking very forward to seeing again, and one I'm looking forward to seeing for the first time. And once I do, there will be a review for All Quiet. And who knows, I might go ahead and review Streets of Fire as well. Why not? Do like a little retro review kind of thing. All right, let me get the this plastic out of here. All righty. And another thing that I like to do on this show is inspired by booktuber Criminali, who at the end of all of his videos, he will take a book at random off of his shelf and talk about it for a couple of minutes. JPRPH1 is saying, I've never seen that one. Thanks for the heads up. You're welcome. That's one thing that I want to do the most, is sort of lead people to good entertainment, and maybe along the way something you've never seen. All right, as we once again move about the cabin. Oh, help me. Stay in place. Never. There is no YouTube show that can hold me. Okay, what shall I pick off of my shelf? All right, something at random. All right, well, here's one. Now, some of you who have seen other streams that I've been on have heard me mention that I was a big fan of the Liam Neeson movie, The Grey. Now, what some of you might not know is that movie was actually based on a book by an author named Ian Mackenzie Jeffers. And I managed to snag a copy of the book a little while back. The front cover, back. And I actually started reading this a little while back, and I want to finish it the first chance I get. It is 145 pages, so it's actually quite short. 11 main chapters. So if you saw The Grey and you liked it, and maybe you'll be interested in the source material. And here it is, and you can find it through Amazon. All righty. Aged Boomer is asking, do you own The Beyond? I do not. I am familiar with it. I've seen that movie one time before, but no, I don't have a copy. All right. Well, this is the time of the show where I open the floor to questions from the chat. I also have a couple left over from the comments section from the previous show. So if anybody wants to ask me any questions, now is the perfect time. Fletcher Williams, good evening. Good for you to good to see you. Uh, we are uh, we are up to the viewer question section. So if you have any questions at all, now's as good time as any to ask. I have some from the. Let me take this down. I'm just now. I'm just now getting the notification, that my own show is on that I've been hosting for more than a half hour. So that's always fun. All righty. Do you own any Criterions? Yes, I do. I do. In fact, I know I have the Criterion Collection editions for Chunking Express, Stagecoach, and what else? Night of the Living Dead. Um, Believe it or not, there's one for Armageddon, and I have that. So I do actually have several Criterion Collection discs um, across all of the 4K Blu-ray, DVD, and whatnot. D. Penzak says, I still have my Criterion laser disc of Blade Runner. Cool. Let me go back here real quick. I should have written these down, but I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. Okay. Aged Boomer says, I have the Criterion version of Shaft. That's the version that also has the sequels on it, right? If I recall correctly. Criterion version of Brazil is good. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about that. I've never actually seen Brazil. I've never seen that movie. You know, I told you would probably be more surprised by what I haven't seen over what I have seen. Alrighty. Now on last week's show, our supporter of the channel, Words and Pictures, left some questions in the viewer chat. I know he's probably not live with us because it's quite late where he is. He's across the pond. So, Words and Pictures. If you hear us on the delay, here is the. You had some questions that you left in the comments section of the previous show. It says, what was the latest Disney film you watched that you still enjoyed? And do you know what the film or films are when you realized that Disney is no longer for you? Um, well, I guess, and this is going to seem strange to people because it was not Last Jedi. It was actually the Rise of Skywalker. That made me realize just how bad things had gotten at Disney. Because you basically had these two directors that were using this popular franchise to have their little slap fight. And I actually think Rise of Skywalker is a worse movie than Last Jedi, and I do not like The Last Jedi for the same reasons everyone else doesn't like it. But I actually believe that Rise of Skywalker did more damage than Last Jedi did. So if I had to pick one movie outwards in pictures that proved to me that Disney was not going in the direction that I think it should go. Personally, for me, it was Rise of Skywalker. Now, what was the last good movie? Now, that I watched and that I still enjoyed? I don't know. It would probably have to be something from probably 20th Century Fox or something, or 20th Century Studios, I guess they call it, or whatever they call it now. Now, you start to think, what movie studios or what networks does Disney own? And you realize they have their fingers on a lot of pies. So, I probably liked a Disney movie or a movie that was indirectly Disney and not even know it, you know. So, that's kind of a hard question to ask I would just go so far as to say anything that was previous to 2016, you know. It says, do you have an action film recommendation that you have a hard copy of, either DVD, Blu-ray, or book that has been adapted? Oh, many. Um, well, I mean, I have here tonight Streets of Fire. I recommend this. You know, I recommend Gray. You know, um, Predator. Die Hard was adapted from a book. Actually, the first two Die Hard movies were adapted from books. So, go with Die Hard. They're any one of a number of things that ways that I could answer that one. Um, he says, I'm not after a great or even a good film, just whatever comes to mind. So yeah, those are whenever I think of action movies, the first movies that always automatically pop into my head: Die Hard, Predator, Lethal Weapon, you know, um, The Great Escape. You know, um, I could go on all day about action movies. And he actually, I brought up Space Mutiny. Which is like this really cheesy South African made, you know, um, movie about this mutiny that takes place on a spaceship that looks like a warehouse because they were actually shooting in a warehouse. you know, and that movie is cheesy as hell, and they went after it twice. Mystery Science Theater and Riff Tracks both did versions of that movie, and it deserves to be lambasted, but it's so much fun. you know, um, and you could do a remake of that today and do it right, and it won't happen, but I can dream. you know, um, but yeah, okay. Aged Boomer says, I think it was the first sequel in regards to Shaft. Yes, I've heard that. The Christopher Robin movie was fun. But which Christopher Robin movie? There were two. There were two that year, I think. Aged Boomer is saying, I agree, Rise was worse. Yeah. And he also says, I'm still waiting for the Warriors to get a decent Blu-ray. It does have a Blu-ray. Actually, I have it, and it's pretty good. Let me once again follow me about the cabin. Now I know I have Now I know there's not a 4K for the Warriors yet that I'm aware of, but I do know that there is a Blu-ray because I have it here on my shelf. Aha, bonus time. And here's the Warriors. This is what is referred to as the Ultimate Director's Cut. And now it's pretty much the movie that we're all familiar with, but there are some different transitions that make it more comic bookish. And I know that people are kind of split on whether or not that should have been in the movie or not, but it didn't bother me really. So here's that version. In the back, and it's got an introduction by Walter Hill, 4 behind the scenes featurettes in the theatrical trailer. And of course the disc. So yeah, this is actually a very good transfer, I thought. But yeah, it needs a 4K, you know. So okay, are there any other questions? Troy says I have to drop to get ready for Geeky Geezers. Yes, my boss is a real hard ass. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and Troy has dropped the link for Geeky Geezers into chat. They are going to be starting here in just under 15 minutes or so, and so I'm going to be over there in the chat. So unless there are any more questions from the chat, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up tonight's show. How long ago did I make the jump to 4K? Uh, it was actually pretty recently. Now, some time ago, Paulie, Latino Slant, he did an interview with an actress named Chelsea Rendon, and she was in a film called The Tax Collector. And he suggested that the movie was worth a watch, and so I went and I went out and I bought a copy of it, and that was the first 4K that I bought, and it came with the Blu-ray. So I watched the Blu-ray first because I did not have a 4K player at that time. And to answer D. Penzak's question, yes, I have since upgraded to a 4K player. I do not have a 4K set, because my set still is in pretty good shape. It's just not a 4K, but I can tell the difference. Just watching a 4K and watching a Blu-ray, I can tell the difference. Because I got the 4K version of The Thing, and it was like I had never seen that movie before. This is the John Carpenter Thing from '82, and it was like I had never seen that movie before in my life. There's new footage in it. It doesn't stray too much from the plot. There are little things here and there that are added. And the detail, I was seeing things, seeing little details that I never noticed before. And like I said, this is a movie I have watched easily 100 times, in the 40 years since it's been released. and I was seeing things in it that, my God, that is truly fucking grotesque, isn't it? And for the first time watching that movie, I got scared. I was really starting to get creeped out, you know. So, the Tax Collector was the first 4K that I bought, but it was the thing that actually sold me on 4K. So I am on the 4K train. um, as for the player that I bought, um, and since I am able to network with you fine people, Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge and Greg of Fanzine Vids, who of course, along with the Runner Blaze, host the Physical Media Show every Wednesday night at 9:30. They were able to point me in the right direction of a decent 4K player that was affordable. So yeah, so I have them to thank, because all I had to do was go and text them, hey, I'm at the store, what's the best of the best for this price, and from what I understand, I pretty much have the type of 4K player that Tom uses. So and got it for about the price that he did. So if not, maybe even a little bit lower. But yeah. So I have Paulie, Tom, and Greg to thank for making the switch to 4K. Um, so yeah, that's my 4K origin story. Are there any other questions before we close it up? All right. Just to let everyone know, next week's show, which will be at the approximately the same time, I might actually start next week a little bit early, and the reason why I'm thinking of starting the show a little bit early next week is because I want to do a viewer question show. So, those of you who are in the chat next week, I am opening the floor to questions for the entire show. Uh, I'll do my physical media section as I normally do, but the rest of the show, you have the floor. Unless something major breaks out news wise, that I feel I need to come on and discuss, I am going to open the floor to you. So, for those of you who are in the chat right now, who will be in the chat next week, those of you who are watching the rerun, who are watching the delay, if you can't be on the show live with us, put some questions in the comment section of this show, and I will answer your questions on next week's show. So this next episode, like I said, barring any breaking news, will be all about you. It will be all about my subs. Are those movies behind you or books? I have both. I have there are movies. There are also some books, and there are also some comic books behind me as well. And also, I have back there the Mego figures from Child's Play that I won on your show. They're back there as well. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything back there, and I have some, I have my Funko Pops back there as well. So All righty. We have Geeky Geezers in under 5 minutes. So if there aren't any more questions, I am going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you for being here, Lady Mist. She says, "Take care, everyone. Super Show deleted scenes." Thank you. Alrighty. So I want to thank everyone for being here. Everyone who is in the chat. Aged Boomer, Troy Netters, D. Pensack, Fletcher Williams, Lady Mist, Big Al Presents, JPRPH1. I want to scroll through here. I don't want to forget anyone. All right. And to everyone who was lurking in the background, thank you very much for being here. I want to thank everyone who watches the delay. JPRPH1 says, "I'll try and think of some questions to ask this week. Thanks for a great stream tonight. I picked up some nice tips. Great job. Take care, everyone." And Lady Mist. All righty. And thank you for being here. All right. So we have Geeky Geezers. Wrenches, please. No, yeah. Put Geeky Geezers link back up in chat again, please, and follow me over there in the chat. Aged Boomer and Troy are going to be hosting the show. I'm sure Netters is going to be in the background. I'm going to be in the chat. Alrighty. So from HQ. Thank you very much for being here. Take care. Good night. Stay strong, because this is how we win. Good night.